it's me, Renee. I'm back. And in case you know, maybe you're a new subscriber, new watcher, but I work in a bookstore. As you can see from the title, this is the third of these kind of videos where I talk about working in a bookstore. You have other videos like this on Booktube, not surprisingly, really. I think a fair share of us, not fair share of us, a few of us work in bookstores, so we have kind of that aspects to book book filing, book loving as well. Not just reading, but also like selling it. But yeah, and a lot of videos kind of do like more like videos like funny things than in bookstores. I tend to do more like a mix, like both funny and then I also like to include some nice stuff, not just bad stuff. And yeah, I kind of want to do this video today as a little fun, balanced in a way to start the week. And yeah, so this is kind of just me doing anecdotes, really. So okay, and also like as usual, I'm just gonna wing it. I'm thinking I'm gonna start with a big like gripey stuff, like big like why, why. So working in a bookstore, as you might imagine, some people come in and they want to get a gift. They need to buy a gift, and like there's some like different ways of doing it. So as it's different ways of being customers and different ways of being people in general. But yeah, some people they come to the desk, to the counter, put the book, or sometimes it's a toy. We sell toys as well. And they say it's a gift, and I'm like, well, okay. What I'm thinking is like, okay, nice to know. But what do you mean by that? What I say, of course, is like, so do you want me to wrap it for you? Do you want a bag? Because maybe you're just gonna give it straight away today. Do you want a receipt so you can return it in case the book isn't to a person's taste? I mean, it's a gift. It doesn't really tell me that much. It just tells me it's a gift. So yeah, people, please be precise. You can't imagine how many times people have said, it's a gift. And it's like, often it's kind of like, it's a gift. It's so aggressive, like, okay, you're saying it aggressively. But you do know I'm not a telepath. I can't read your mind. So what do you mean? And also, like, often it means they just want it wrapped. Sometimes it means they want a receipt so they can change it if it's not to taste. Sometimes I actually experienced once, maybe twice, when like they said it's a gift, and I asked them, well, like to clarify, do you want a receipt? Do you want me to wrap it? And say, no. I'm just telling you, it's a gift. I was like, do I care? Well, I mean, yes. Sometimes it's kind of nice, like, to know it's a gift or not. I mean, it's probably nice for them to talk about stuff, but it's not really needed for me to know. It's not really privileged or interesting information, really. So it's like, okay, it's a gift, and I care about that. Why? Like, I suppose, like, if you came and like started talking about how nice the weather is, so like asked for a good recommendation, or like started a conversation and then said, "I need a gift." But if your first words is "it's a gift," it's just a weird way to start conversation. Really, it's weird. It's kind of weird. And then another thing, regarding the same thing, you would not believe how many times people come into a store. They come to the counter, or maybe first they ask about tips, or just come to the counter. I mean, anyway, they're getting a gift, and they asking me to wrap it, but they don't say just that. I mean, asking me to wrap it, fine. I mean, we wrap gifts if we have time, if there's no queue, no problem with that. No, but they say, can you wrap it as a gift? And I say, always like, of course. But I'm just thinking, like, how else would I wrap it? I mean, to wrap something, it's a gift. How do you wrap something not as a gift? Like, do you think in my spare time I wrap like if I'm giving something myself personally to friends or family for Christmas or it's a birthday, do you think I'll just kind of wrap it with holes in it so people will see what it is? I mean, no, I do know the concept of wrapping something. And wrapping it something as a gift. Maybe I suppose maybe they're thinking like, okay, can you wrap it as a gift? Like maybe they want like to be precise. Like, do you want me to wrap it very nicely? But then again, I work in a bookstore. Why would I try to be sloppy wrapping stuff in a bookstore? I won't. I mean, well, at least I have a lot of thoughts on what goes around in bookstores. Oh, I suppose in life as well. I have the channel, I have thoughts. I have 2 more videos, I have thoughts. But I don't go around judging and saying stuff out loud. So, like, yes, maybe in my spare time, maybe I won't be that precise wrapping something for my friends because, like, in my opinion, it's like, why would you wrap something very, very nicely? Because you gotta open it. And sometimes, actually, for me, myself, personally, I feel like if I get a gift and it's just so nicely wrapped, I'm like, I don't want to open this because I don't want to destroy this beautiful wrapping. And like wrapping is meant to be open, so like making it very nice. I just really don't see the concept or the idea behind it. I don't see the point. But then me working in a bookstore, of course, I'm gonna wrap it as nicely as I can because it's part of my job. Why? And yeah, I suppose like in Norway, it's like when you first get a job, it's kind of difficult to get fired. I suppose if you live in United States of Christmas, it's something else. But like in Norway, when you first get a job, it's kind of it's not that easy to get fired. So like if I was bad at 1 or 2 parts of my job, it wouldn't really matter that much. And like even like so if it would be something else, be someone else, it would be bad, but I would just be it. I when I do something bad, I try to do better. But yeah, it's like wrap it as a gift. Like what? How else would I do it? Honestly, the other day, someone came in and said like, "Can you wrap it as a gift?" And I was this close to saying like, "What? As a gift? I I had planned to wrap it as a whore." And like, yeah, also like the wording, like wrap it as a gift, because I mean, as I said, wrapping it's kind of redundant because wrapping something that means it's a gift. Wrapping something as a gift, I mean, it also like wrapping something as a gift as opposed to wrapping something I mean, you can't wrap something as not as a gift. It's just impossible. So yeah, yeah. Also regarding like yeah, just kind of I suppose I'm doing it, but kind of like going like from one related thing to another related thing, like going with impulses and things flow. But yeah, you won't believe. You cannot guess. I tell you, you can't guess how many times people come into the store. Maybe they're kind of like maybe first they're uh, asking for tips, or maybe just kind of asking for books, or just kind of maybe they're just kind of asking for something, or maybe just finding what they want, what they're buying. Doesn't really matter. I mean, yeah, what they get, they're wanting a gift. But instead of saying like, could you wrap it, or could you have a receipt, like if she wants to change it, we'll change it. No, they asked me, do you have wrapping paper? Of course, what I do then, I go and show them, yes, we have it over here. And then I come back to the counter and say, well, can you wrap it for me? And I'll say like, yes, I can. As if, like, I mean, in my mind, if you ask, do you have wrapping paper? That's probably in my head. I'm thinking like, okay, you're gonna buy it because you're gonna wrap lots of stuff yourself. Like often for Christmas, lots of people buy wrapping paper and um, maybe they're wrapping lots of presents themselves at home because they have so many presents they kind of just do it themselves. Or maybe they go to lots of presents and maybe they're supposed to, uh, maybe they want to wrap something from the store, but also want to wrap something from home. So like they made something, so they have to like they can't wrap something in the store. So of course, yeah, wrapping paper. It's something you can own as well. So if you ask, do I have wrapping paper? Yes, I'll show you it to you. But don't ask if you have wrapping paper if you want me to wrap something, because we have something to sell, some wrapping paper to sell, and we have some the ones we use to wrap. They are at the counter. Amazingly enough. So amazing. That's that's a weird. That's a weird thing. It's quite weird. But yeah. So yeah, a bit gripey with me really. It's just kind of baffles me. People what goes inside people goes inside what goes on inside people's minds is just how how did that statement become logic by your head? How how yeah. I can also, as I said, I can also want to do a bit like happy anecdotes. I'm gonna have to think a bit because Sally, I mean, I suppose also often like with things in life and stuff, you often kind of think uh, immediately about the bad parts and negative parts, but negative parts, but still there are good things as well. I would say that. Mhm. Yeah. Okay. So there was this the thing at work. Well, of course, at work, it's kind of obvious. It's what I'm talking about. But yeah, a few weeks ago, I had some shifts at a store close to my store. So I work in a chain store, which I suppose like most chain bookstores aren't. Well, sorry, are. Though I suppose that's kind of depends on where you are. Here, because of bookstore and stuff, I hear this like some. Well, I'd say lots. So like this is, talks about independent bookstores. And I'm like, is that a thing? Here in Norway, that's not really a thing. Seems like we have them everywhere in the States, but we don't really have that many of those in Norway. We have like I suppose we might have like a used store that has both books and other stuff. That's kind of like not part of chain, just kind of one store. But since it's not solely books, it's other stuff as well. I wonder whether they count that. So like stuff like the Rich Brothers in San Francisco, romance bookstore. We don't have that. Well, I suppose like we have it. I do actually remember at this time, we do actually have one recently opened actually a feminist bookstore. So both fiction and non-fiction around feminists. But that just came very recently. But like in general, if you tell people Norwegians independent bookstores, we don't really we won't really know what you're talking about really because it's not a thing here really. So yeah, but I suppose so most like when you talk about bookstores, you're talking about one of the chains. But yeah, so I work in a chain bookstore, and as I work in a chain bookstore, sadly, one of the colleagues in sorry, in a store close to the store I work in, she's sick. So that store needs people to cover her shifts. So I gotten three or four. Yeah, I have gotten four shifts over there over the summer. So it's kind of been a bit like, oh, I have to get used to this new store and stuff. But it's the same chain, but it's a bit different because different store has different routines and etc. 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 But yeah, so I was working there in June, I think. Maybe it was June. Doesn't really matter when it was. Sometimes details are very important to me, but that's not really part of the point. They don't really need to be used. But yeah, so yeah, I was working in that other store, and it doesn't really matter which store is anyway. But anywho, and this dad and his kid, the kid was like 9, 10. I went around looking, and they asked for some books. I said, "Look, there's some books over there," and then I was a bit unsure. I think I ended up buying like 2 or 3 books. And I just kind of recommended like you could also buy this because that's kind of like we have the monthly books for kids and adults. And the dad said, "No, I think it's enough. He just got lots of books for his birthday." And that's just kind of like, oh, a boy getting lots of books for his birthday just kind of warmed my reading heart because, and I think that's pretty universal, but that's kind of like often you kind of think, and it often is, reading is kind of like a girl thing, a girl hobby. So getting boys to read is kind of difficult, and getting boys to read lots very difficult. So seeing boys who read lots, it's just kind of so nice and so touching. So yeah, that was just very nice to hear. Really, I love that. Loved it so much. Sorry. And then I thought maybe going to another, using another happy anecdote. Honestly, at this point of time, I don't. Well, I suppose I have a semi-happy anecdote. I'm going to go with that one. So just the other day, well, I suppose again, it doesn't really matter when it was, but I don't know. I like to give details, as you might have noticed. But yeah, just the other day, there was this woman and her kid. Well, a kid. When are you a kid? When are you a teen? When are you a young adult? Oh, okay. So there was this woman and her daughter. The woman, she kind of went and bought a crime book, and she asked like me, because I always ask people, customers, do you need help? And said, yes. Do you have crime books for 16-year-olds? So the daughter was 16. So like, it's a kid. Well, she's the kid of the mom, but is a 16-year-old a kid? Yeah. Anyway, and I was kind of actually I was a bit stumped because like crime for teens, it's not really that big of a genre, really. I suppose you have Nancy Drew, you have Hardy Boys, but like I would say like I suppose people maybe they read that when they were teens in like the 1940s or 50s or 60s. But giving Nancy Drew to a 16-year-old now, even like there's you even have like new Nancy Drew books, but even that kind of feels a bit childish in some ways. So I wouldn't really recommend that for a 16-year-old. I wouldn't. And yeah, honestly, I was a bit stumped. I ended up recommending her Robin and Wells, The Wells and Wong, book number 3. Uh, can't believe me about the book title at the moment, but it's the one that's on the Orient Express. So Wells and Wong series, it's written for like it's meant or like the publisher says like the age group is 9 plus. Well, like I'm 28, well 29 recently. I have been I've read the Wells and Wong series. I read the first one I was 27. I think it's 27. Yeah, 27. And I enjoy them lots. So yeah, there's lots of books that kind of they say like the age limit is this and this, but you don't really have to be in that limit to enjoy it. So yeah, I gave her that, and then she bought it and went away. And then, of course, after these customers went away, I can think I thought like, oh, night school. I see you enjoyed it, and that's a crime. It's kind of I suppose thrillerish, but it's also crime, and that maybe a bit more perfect for a 16-year-old. It's just so typical that you remember the perfect tip after customers gone out of the store. It's yeah, typical. So typical. And then also yeah, so I suppose that's kind of like happy happy anecdote because the kid, 18-year-old, 16-year-old wanted a book. Well, I suppose maybe she didn't want. Maybe her mom wanted her to have a book, but she didn't really seem mad that she was getting a book. So she seemed neutral anyway, and she seemed interested enough. But the bad thing, like, I couldn't really think of a book really. I suppose yes, you have some YA thrillers, but like when people come to me and say like they want a crime book, or at least I often think like mystery book, and I ask also like what kind of crime do you want? Like, do you want like a whodunit? Just like yeah, kind of mystery. Like having it just a pure mystery, not having a like thriller or like people not knowing what's going on, but like more like there's a body or someone's diamonds has been stolen. There's not really many of those for teens, are there really? I mean, you have the Wilson one, which can be read for teens. You have the Girl is Murder. That's also historical, but still can work. Other than that, Well, and here we have Harlan Coben wrote a teen trilogy a few weeks ago. A few weeks ago. Other than that, I can't really think of that many. So that's kind of sad. I suppose also you can also say like, well, you're 16. I mean, I suppose I could have recommended her some adult crime, but then like, do 16s want to read about a 40-year-old drunk policeman, which like half the crime books, at least in Norway, are out. Maybe some of them would too, because like lots of people read that in high school when I went to high school. But then again, maybe they don't. I don't really know. And that's kind of often more gory than who done it. So yeah. Anyway, and yeah, I suppose it's 20 minutes now. I kind of thought maybe first that this video would kind of be like 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, but then end up being longer. But yeah, I hope you enjoy this, and yeah, and I'll see you soon.